none of us are going to get it perfect.
Welcome to Mom Mentality, your virtual village of support. I'm Jessica Campbell, your family wellness coach, and I am committed to helping you prioritize your and your family's well-being. This podcast will be like your favorite ladies group chat come to life. We'll share the ups and downs of life for moms just like you, get real advice from coaches and experts, and I'll pop in with my own stories and tips on everyday challenges to the big questions. Whether you're juggling work from home, balancing adult life with parenthood, tackling ADHD, yours or your kids, or just trying to catch a breath, Mom Mentality is your spot. As we all turn on our holiday cheer, I understand that you wear all the hats, but let's not forget you're on the top of the gift list too. This season, give yourself the gift of downtime with Wildflower Pop self-care gift baskets. Imagine a moment just for you, embraced by the warmth of self-love and a peaceful break from your endless to-do list that's now doubled in holiday cheer. If no one has told you lately, you deserve every bit of relaxation. Your sanctuary of serenity awaits. Check out the link in the show notes to grab yours.
I was looking up, by the way, some stuff about parent coaching, and it said that it's a therapy. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's not therapy. So I think there's a need to clarify that, right?
Right.
Because that would get confusing because we're not therapists.
It makes me think of, so I did this mental health summit, and they were talking, and I sat in on one about animals in the school system, and they were talking about the difference between a service animal, emotional support, and then a therapy dog, and how a therapy dog or a therapy animal, you can put that label on anything, even though it's not for therapy. And it reminds me of that because, we're told explicitly to say we are not therapists. But then when you search it, there's so many things saying it's a type of therapy. So it makes me think of like sound therapists. Like you could go through school for music therapy, but I'm sure there's plenty of sound therapists that are not actually like therapists. They just have like, they're maybe musicians or whatever.
We got to be really clear on that.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So when I looked this up, it said parent coach is a trained professional who helps parents and caregivers manage challenges and promote positive interactions in their family. That's where I went off of it, because also this one, the one that said it was a type of therapy, if you go down, that's when it says it's a certified professional with expertise in evidence-based strategies to address a wide array of challenges. Well, when you look up the actual definition of therapy, it says treatment intended to relieve or heal a disorder, or the treatment of mental conditions by verbal communication and interaction. So technically, therapy is a more universal term, but it's like when you say a doctor, right? Is that an MD or someone with a doctorate? And so technically it could be a type of therapy. However, we are not therapists, which is where that gray area comes in.
You said something just a second ago. Okay, so I'm looking here. They use techniques and approaches. Talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm not trying to change a parent from being a parent, right? I don't want them to think that way. That's not what we're doing. I really want someone who wants to be a better version of themselves, who wants to be the parent they imagine themselves to be, have the ability to do that. And sometimes that's just validating them as parents, just saying, hey, it's okay to lose it sometimes. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay just to be good enough. You don't have to be that person that everybody else sees, right? But when it comes to being a parent coach, I would think that that's like a coach for football or for a sport.
If you look for jobs for coaches, it brings up a lot of like schools, baseball coach, football coach, basketball coach, right? But those people are not trying to heal a trauma someone had with football. They're teaching them how to handle it better, as they're going, teaching them the tools that they need to be the best football player they can be, right? So it's kind of that where it says, yes, it's a type of therapy, but no one's walking around saying there's football therapy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's more like you're a coach. And if you compare it to something like that, like a baseball coach, you're helping somebody with the tools and strategies that to help them become their best version of themselves, where I think therapy is more based on healing and removing parts that you don't like, rather than taking the parts that you have and allowing them to be there and then allowing yourself to evolve through it.
It's definitely words, right? Words. But what basically it is what you said, and to help support the parents be and take all that they have that they want in their parenting,
Right.
and to move forward and grow with that.
I don't know of I guess a better term, but like really we're more of accountability guides. And like, if this is what you want, this is how you get to those goals, rather than like, we're going to tell you exactly how you need to do it. Instead, we're going to say, these are your values. These are the things you want. And here's how we're going to hold you accountable and maybe give you a different perspective.
Yeah. But we are going to be talking about stuff. We are going to be finding blind spots. We are going to be helping with healing of traumas that we've lived through, right? And we're going to help through that.
We still acknowledge that people have trauma and people have backstories. And I think in acknowledging that, there is a level of processing it, even though they say we're not actively trying to process it, but there's a level of passive processing as we're working people towards their goals.
How do we differentiate it then from traditional parenting advice?
Well, parenting advice is unsolicited. Most people who give parenting advice are not asking consent. They're just saying, well, this is what I would do if I was a parent, or if I was in your shoes. Coaching is very much in a place of like, they want our help. We're not just throwing stuff at them because we think we know better.
Coaching is more alongside and with, instead of I know more than. We as coaches, and the coaches that I've worked with that have helped me, I never felt judged. I never felt like they knew more. I never felt like when I shared a mistake or a failure or a bomb, what I did in parenting today, I yelled at my kids, even right before this podcast. Oh my gosh, yep. What did I do? I was frustrated because the whole living room was this amazing house with Legos here and I don't know, whatever was over here and underneath my table. And I'm trying to get lunch and I couldn't find my table. I'm like, guys. So yeah, I kind of lost it a little
I think,
bit.
yeah, and
But
I think like that humility, like we're willing to say, like, we have our moments. And I think more therapists are getting to that point too, where they're like, I have a therapist, I'm a therapist, and I have a therapist. But for a long time, that wasn't accepted, like you had to be that point of authority. Whereas I think we have that humility to say, none of us are going to get it perfect. And so we coach to hold them accountable for what they want, because we know it's not about us telling them they have to do. It's about us just being the space for them to lean into when they feel lost, but they know what they want and they just don't know how to get there.
And feeling like they're alone, and feeling like the failures that they're reaching lowest of low, and it feels like it's not possible to come out.
Right.
And then to realize that there's this whole community of support out there,
Right.
which is out there. And we'll get to talk about that a little bit later. But, because there's this huge need for us as parents to have that support since the pandemic and since the issues that have happened from COVID and some of the other mental health situations that have arisen,
Right.
and how that has really affected the family dynamics. It has created a need that is so great. Dr. Vivek Murthy, the U.S. Surgeon General, he weighed in and said he has declared right now a mental health struggle for parents a crisis. It is a public health issue right now in the United States. I would say that it's more than that, because I think it's all over the world, because everyone had to suffer through the pandemic. And this is where the suggestion was to pull in the psychologists, the therapists, the parent groups, advocates, the resources that you can find in a community, including parent coaching, to help with this stress, because you're not alone.
And the thing is, there's such a shortage of therapists anyway. So when people think of someone to go talk to that's not just a friend, they're thinking of therapists, and then they can't get in for 6 to 12 months anyway. And granted, we might not be hashing out all their past traumas, but we definitely hold a space for people to talk about the struggles that they have. And we're way more readily available than, going to a therapist. I mean, and if you think in terms of like one-to-one coaching, group coaching, couples coaching, there's a lot of opportunity there for them to be able to speak it out loud and process it on their own. But like having somebody that is unbiased that they can talk to and get that stuff out without having to wait to go through trying to get to a therapist at that moment, too. And I always say, like, I think therapy and coaching go very well hand in hand, especially if you have heavy trauma. Like for myself, it had to be done that way. If it hadn't, I don't think I would have got to the point I am now. And so for some people, it is necessary to have both. But I also think that that's why parent coaching has become such a big thing. There needs to be people out there that can support that, but not everyone's going to go through school for 4 to 8 years to become a counselor, a therapist, whatever, social worker, whatever.
And so then what brought you to that then? What made you want to become this parent coach?
Mine was kind of like a long story. I started working in like a network marketing field just to make some money at home. And then when I got into that, I started looking more into helping families through helping marriages. And so I've been in this place of like wanting to help families, but I've been trying to kind of stumble around how I wanted to do that. And I've always been an advocate for kids. I got through that and I was like, okay, this could be good. And then I was like, but how can I make this like bigger? How can I support like the whole family? And then I found some people that were working around mindset work. And because I was struggling so hard and through the pandemic with therapy and not having all the tools I needed, I was like, oh, this could be a great person to be a business coach, and I can look into mindset. And I started exploring all of that stuff. And as it kind of like rounded out, I was following other people like that were very well based in that. And I started looking into like my own ADHD. I basically was self-diagnosed until someone else came in and was like, yes, confirmed it. But I'm very like self-aware. So I already knew what was going on as I started to explore those things. And in that, I started finding more stuff about parenting and children and all of these things. And then when I found Jai, that's when I was like, this is the holistic way of helping a family, because it's parent centric, but you're advocating for kids through that by helping the parents be where they need to be so that they're not passing on those generational patterns. And then for myself going through it, it's helped my relationship with my husband, which again helps the child. So it's like, it is a very holistic approach, even though it's mostly centered on the person that you're coaching. It kind of like gives that huge ripple effect to everyone that you're around. And it just felt all of that work I did led me right to where it needed to be.
Yeah.
But what about you?
Well, I happen to be a special education teacher. And when I had my kiddos, I thought, oh yeah, this will be easy. And during my pregnancy, because I'm having twins, right? I was having twins. And I read The Whole Brain Child. I read Gentle Parenting, Positive Discipline. I read books. I went to TED Talks. I was really interested in finding myself as a parent because it was new to me, brand new parent, and expecting two at once. Wanted to be the best parent I could be. I did all that with my education. Also, I'm a teacher, right? I work with kids that have all sorts of different needs and all sorts of different ages, actually. I was not as prepared as I thought. I found that I was surviving, and there is something to say about twin parents, and that is there is a survival mode that you get into because of the lack of sleep, the lack of support, the lack of resources, the lack of decompression, because it was overstimulating. I was overwhelmed at times. I was exhausted. I lost it a few times. My husband lost it a few times. I will say that there was a few times I wanted to divorce my husband. I'm sure he wanted to do the same to me because I was a little nutty. And what I did was I researched again a year ago to find another thing because something wasn't working. I'm like, I read all this. It's not working. I'm yelling at my kids. I have smacked my kids. I have set my kids in the corner. Well, not literally in the corner, but on the side and said, hey, stay there for 3 minutes. That's how old you are. Want to do the super nanny thing. And I stumbled upon Jai Institute of Parenting. And what happened was it matched everything I wanted to be. It was a coaching program. And I'm like, oh yeah, I need coached. Please help me. I want to be a better parent. I don't want to live each day not having a relationship with my child. I don't want to live each day without knowing what my child needs and having a relationship. I've already lost family members during the pandemic. I didn't want to lose my children while living in the same house with them emotionally. It was really important to me. What I did was I called them up and said, hey, I'm ready to sign up. Totally easy for me. It matched, it resonated, done. The first year after the boys were born, went to a parenting class. Mm-hmm. And I brought all my friends who had kids, who just had kids with me, in my home, and I would share everything to them. And it was great. It felt wonderful. They got help. I got help. We all got validated. It felt good. We could move forward. That ended because of the pandemic. Fast forward to now, I am certified. I want to share this. it's important. Parents don't have to feel alone. When I went through the program and was coached myself, I had so many aha moments and realized, oh, this reaction isn't because of what my child's doing. This reaction is because of something that happened before.
I resonate with that, with just having so many aha moments going through it.
Right. And we already mentioned quite a few of the challenges that parents, as we have seen, right, that we experience today, that gives us a reason for becoming what we're at, where we're at, what we're doing right now, because we experience those challenges.
So I'm curious, how do you differentiate our style of coaching with other forms of support?
Well, I've experienced other forms of support, and it was great, important. I needed it. As a new mom with twins, also a multicultural marriage. My husband's from South Korea. He's not American born. We had some parenting difficulties. So we had a program come into our home before the pandemic hit, and they would share some information and then leave. They would come back, and we had a little homework to do. It wasn't a lot, it was a little. It was kind of like parent coaching, but what I felt was different was that they would share the information and then say, okay, did you experience this? How did things go? And they would look at the kids and see how the kids were doing and see if we're moving forward with our doctor's appointments, just making sure we're doing well. It was really important. I thought it was really important. It made me feel cherished, really, because someone bothered to come, even though it was through the hospital.
Right.
And then there was another one, counseling, that would come in for us. It was a family counseling. That I felt was a little bit more like coaching, but also a little more therapeutic, I think, because I was able to air out my frustrations. I could even talk to this individual personally, and we would be validated. Still no real in-depth learning of like, oh, you reacted this way because of this. How do you feel about that? Is that serving your goal of bonding with your child? No questions like that.
Right.
Very
directional.
And then the last one was an actual family therapist. And again, there wasn't really much digging or blind sight revealing to us. It was more just to listen to us and to say, hey, you're doing great, kind of really. And what I gotta say, when I went through the coaching process with Giant Suit of Parenting, I was floored. I learned more about myself. Two things, actually. I either learned more about myself than I had ever learned, or all those other times led me to be more open to learn about myself at that moment.
Right.
And I was more accepting of like, oh, I'm not really great at this. And yes, I will take responsibility and I will admit this was a problem. No, I will not hide from this again. Oh, this is from something in my past. Oh, I was treated like that as a child. That makes sense why I'm treating my child like this. I don't want that. So what can I do better? And it's really a good way to find the answer in yourself. I felt like therapy was kind of not looking for the answer in you so much as the Giant Suit led me to learn about me. I learned more because I was able to look inside me and say, okay, I don't like this. It's okay. Accept it. Be gentle. Love yourself. Give yourself grace.
100%. It's completely life-changing in that, like, I don't hold that guilt. I don't hold it over my head when I seemingly mess up in, how I want to show up. There is such a graceful way that Jai has trained us to challenge people without judging them and without kind of pinning them to the cross, so to speak. Like, we're not beating them up over it, but we're also able to challenge and kind of push them outside of their comfort zone a little bit, and not in a scary way. There's so many misconceptions on, like, if you're a parent coach, you're just telling people what to do, or that they're a bad parent, or like, you're going to judge me for this because they know you're a parent coach. Have you ever run into that?
I actually have, just 2 weeks ago. With my own family, not my kids and husband, but I was visiting my brother, and he was interested in what I was doing. So he said, hey, show me some of the things you're doing. And then also let's try them out. And I said, okay, are you sure? And so I shared some, and it really is important to know that when you're ready, you're ready. When you're not. We are not looking for someone to come in just to come in. we want to help those people who are able to help themselves at this moment, who are
Right.
able to come in and say, yeah, I want this. And when I say help yourself, that means help yourself to coming, help yourself to getting up and making the move.
Right. Like you want it
There
enough that
are,
you're willing to be here. It's no different than being in special education. It's no different than like if a student doesn't want to show up, even if their body is in that seat, they're not going to be listening. They're not going to be, they're tuned out. It's in one ear out the other. You could sit there all day long, but if you're not really ready for it, it's not going to resonate.
it matters who you choose as a coach.
Right.
It matters the style. It matters the pace. It matters the personality, because we want this to be something that is lasting, something that is an encouragement, something that empowers a parent, not something that is uncomfortable, that is frustrating.
Right.
However,
Yeah,
that said, there are moments of uncomfortableness because we're working on us. It's parent centric,
if you're listening to this and you're with a coach or a therapist that makes you feel shame or makes you feel judged, or you leave and you don't feel better, you just feel worse about the things that have happened, you probably need to find a new because at the end of the day, you want to find someone you're comfortable with and find someone that will push you out of your comfort zone, but you don't want to work with somebody who's going to make you feel, or at least contribute to that feeling of like mom guilt. Like we all have mom guilt at some point or another in our life. And so you don't want to be somewhere with someone who I found this a lot with like the conversation of tough love. A lot of times people use tough love as a term to not be a nice person. Find someone that is the right fit. And that's exactly why discovery calls are a thing, or social media, right? Following people on social media, seeing the kind of person they are, seeing if they have the same values as you. There's a lot of different ways to get to know your coach. And sometimes it might be you get so far in and you're like, this is not for me. And that's okay too. That happens.
we all work together. And if there's a coach or a style or someone else, we can give those resources to you. We're not going to leave you, or no one's going to leave someone. If any coach leaves you without a resource, that's not okay.
There is someone for everyone out there. So don't be afraid to look for that. Well, I know we've been at this for a while, so we will wrap up today. We're going to come back for more on this mental health issue. But I want to thank you for sharing. Thank you for having this conversation with me. It's been so much fun. And
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me on. And thanks for letting me talk and enjoy with you. And it's been a great ride.
yes, absolutely. For my listeners, what I want to leave you with, how would you change and how have you been challenged? Maybe in the last week, maybe in the last year, but just do some reflecting because it can be really profound.
Remember, you are powerful, you are worthy, you are valued, and you are loved. Keep pushing, keep loving, and most importantly, keep believing in your amazing ability to empower your legacy.